G'day guys, welcome back to another episode. In today's episode, we are back in the shed. We've got the gold dude here, and today I'm going to be focusing on this winch. I've got a bunch of stuff on the table over here. I've got lithium batteries, I've got wire, a charger, and a whole bunch of everything to connect it all together. And I'm going to be doing a 24 volt lithium setup. I've already gone and I've made a battery tray, which is mounted in the rear of the chassis under the tray on the back. And yeah, so I've got to get the batteries fitted up into it, wire it all up, and we're going to get it going. Before I actually get too stuck into it, I haven't actually talked about this bullbar. So this bullbar, obviously it's been in the last few videos. It was even in a high country episode. That was right after I got it. But I actually filmed some stuff with this bar that I haven't got around to yet because I haven't got around to wiring the winch up. So I haven't really shared it with you guys. So you may notice that it does look similar to my last bull bar. So the last bull bar I made myself, I made it a few years ago. There was nothing wrong with it, but there was two things. The cops, they didn't like it. They were threatening to try and defect me and tried calling me in for an inspection to do me for the bar, but let's just say it wasn't on there when I went to the inspection, so didn't really have an issue there, but they let me know that they weren't happy with it. And the second thing is I wanted to switch to a high mount winch, and obviously I couldn't fit one of those in the old bar. There was no way possible that I could ever fit one because I made it that close to the body. Basically, this is a Raslarr bull bar. It's actually called the pulley bar, and that's because I worked with Raslarr to design it. We basically used their center cradle from their old bull bar. They've done custom wings. I asked them to raise this up. We've checked all the measurements that we needed to check to make it legal. And yeah, they've done some aggressive hoops as per my request. And we've just hooked it up to my old scrub bars. But I'm gonna take you back to when we were actually doing it. I've got a little bit of stuff filmed, so I'll just show you a bit of the process so you can get a bit of an understanding. We'll go from there and then we'll work into fitting it all up, getting stuck into the batteries and wiring the winch up. And then hopefully the next trip is going to be using the winch, which is actually in real life. This weekend I'm heading away to do some winching, so let's get stuck into it.
All right, the first step with this bull bar was for myself and Raslarr to agree on a design. Now, they pretty much nailed it first go, but there was a few little things that I got them to change. I drove the ute down, and when I got there, they already had the bar tacked up and we just had to work the hoops out. In this hoop process, we made 3 different outer hoops before we were happy. It was a bit of fiddling around and it was hard to get them to look how I wanted without affecting ADR compliance, but we got there in the end. The bar was then welded out, sandblasted and powder coated all in-house at Raslarr that afternoon. And the footage that I'm now playing is actually the next day when we started fitting up the final product. The winch that I'm fitting to this bar is a Gigglepin GP100. I've always wanted one of these and it's taken many years for me to be able to actually afford it. This thing is a monster and you cannot compare it to any form of low mount winch. Most low mount winches are designed to get you out of trouble. A twin motor competition winch like this is a whole different game. This winch is going to allow me to drive places that previously would not have even attempted with a low mount. Raslarr actually designed this bar so you don't have to cut your grill to run a high mount, but because mine is such a monster, we actually ended up trimming the grill, and I'm going to get Matty Flexi to make me a custom one later. Once the bolts were all tightened up, it was time for the best bit, the ADR compliant sticker.
What do you reckon?
It's very cool. I love it.
Took a little bit of convincing to get Rob to like the angry hoops, but
yeah, I had to shave 15 years off me, off my age to agree to it. It all ties together. I do like now seeing it with them leaning forward and this leaning forward, it all comes together.
General rule is you can't have a hoop leaning forward, but we've actually made it.
We've got 10 degrees.
What's the actual law?
Can't remember if it's 5 or 7, but we're well
within. We've got the look of it leaning forward, but without it actually being a ADR.
And these, as much as, like this is further back still, but as much as that's forward, we've crept everything back So we're still straight. We're going off the front projection, but the illusion of aggressive is actually further back.
Obviously, I've been having a few issues with the police, and one of their things they were saying about my last bar was the aggression of it and the tyre coverage, and it didn't cover enough tyre and it needs to cover a certain degrees and amount. So we've actually got the information.
Yeah, we've done a cool little picture of it, but we'll hold it up.
Yeah.
But we actually learnt you could run no bump, like pretty much no bullbar, and still be in that rule.
On this car, the
car.
way that it's meant to be measured.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean for any, but yeah.
For any car, but it actually wasn't as hard as we thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So,
and my last bar was actually compliant. From the centre of your hub, 30 degrees forward, your body line needs to cover. So basically, if you imagine none of this stuff was here, we'd still be compliant.
Yeah.
And that's with all the lift and everything.
I'm going to say, and this is an extreme example of height, obviously. Most cars could only, like yours is obviously engineered and all different how it is, but most people's would be down here, so you would be absolutely swimming in that rule.
That's right, yeah.
And then the last one's obviously, because it's essentially just our normal pan, it's up a bit higher in that, but it's already got all our collapsible chassis bracket and all that sort of stuff for the airbag aspect of it.
So that was the main thing with my old bar. It turned out my tyre coverage, everything else was sweet on the last bar.
Yeah,
but
and if it was a non-airbag car, it would have been fine.
Exactly. So the only thing I wasn't compliant with is the airbags. And yeah, this has got a
collapsible section in the upright in the chassis bracket. So obviously in a big impact, it would rotate in and have some give in it.
But then that's still a 6mm piece of steel there.
Yeah.
So it's never going to move in a normal scenario. Like it's not going to. I've got to obviously put a big winch on here. I'm going to be doing stuff with it, but it's not. It doesn't weaken the bar.
Nah,
so if you crash into a tree at 100 k's an hour, it's probably going to move. But
we've seen many over the years, and it takes a pretty big hit. But they always do their job.
Yeah.
So obviously, the idea of the pan on all the 70 series stuff we do. Look, they're made initially for like a low mount. They come with multiple sets of holes in them, and they're wide enough, the flat plane, that they're very easily modified. So as much as like a normal high mount would bolt directly in, or a low mount, you rocked up with. I'm like, that's not what I thought was coming. But anyway, it was literally 2 more holes, and we opened the fair lead hole up. Obviously, you'll put your fair lead up.
Yeah, I forgot to bring my fair lead down, so that's why that's not on there. But I've got no rope on the winch or anything either. So,
like you said, anyone that's buying this sort of winch is going to be happy to do a minimal mod, like a couple of holes, and it's essentially a bolt-in fit. These we've gone actually 1 6mm, like the pan, everything. It's all one bit, all folded in one go. We've added some, diesel boys get a bit emotional about airflow, so we've tried to open her up a bit more and even put little fins in there just to direct air up into it.
And we've lifted it up as opposed to your standard 79 bar.
So yeah, obviously we're like sort of 30 or more mil higher through here already, which means it's a flare cut. Yours has already got guard cups, flare cut, everything. So, but we're up to the headlight. So yeah, we're already up a lot more. So the pan's up higher. So it's very, very aggressive still, but still, I guess, out a bit that a normal winch will fit. And then, like with the angry headlight hoop, we've really pushed the friendship with headlight coverage. Obviously, this top bit isn't the headlight. The headlight finishes here, and we've actually got quite a bit of grace. We've obviously added the indicators and parkers, and every car's a bit different. Some have got a parker in here, so you wouldn't need them, but we try on most where there's room to just put them in no matter what, so it just keeps everyone happy.
And also, you've added another mounting point down here, which I was interested by. Cruiser chassis only has, it has a couple go down through, and then it only has these little ones, but they've actually tagged onto this. That's the factory tie down point.
Just gives it a bit more bracing. Yeah, like I say, it's a big 12, like it's 140mm, 12mm bolt right down through the guts, but we've used every single mounting sort of point on the end of the rail there that's possible.
With the rails, obviously, I've reused my rails. I wanted to keep all this stuff. We've used the roll cage joiner. We've tacked it up on the car and welded that in, but as a production thing, if you're going to sell this bar,
we'll have to make a bolt-on clamp. I know some people don't like them, but it makes it so people can fit them at home. And obviously, if you're real hardcore, you'll buy them and you'll modify that bit. So the rails, we always send them too long. So if you want to trim them back and add that, you can.
And you need to have some kind of adjustment in that setup
for the average person to bolt on their car at home, whereas mine's very specific. Like I've got threads welded into the chassis, and it's all,
this
you know,
is very one-off.
Massive thanks to Raslarr for actually making this happen. They've done an awesome job, and if you want to go check out the pulley bar online or any of their other models, go and check out their website, which is raslarr.com.au. These guys are in Melbourne, they're Australian made, and I am bloody stoked with how good this bar looks.
All right, so I'm gonna quickly run this through all the stuff that I've got here to wire up the setup, and then I'm gonna jump straight into mounting the batteries and wiring it all up. But basically, first thing is the batteries. Now I've opted to go for a lithium battery. I've been running a lithium battery under my bonnet for the last 3 years. I love it, it's really good. I haven't had to run a dual battery setup to run my fridge or anything. I literally just have that one battery under the bonnet. I've gone for these Superstart lithium batteries. Superstart, you may be familiar, they are sold in shops around town. They've been around for 30 years and they have been testing lithium for 12 years. So when it comes to lithium cranking, and the first thing most people have said to me is, oh, how does it go with the heat in the engine bay and you can't crank off lithium and this and that? Well, there's two different types of lithium these days. You've got lithium, which you would put in your canopy to run your fridge and to run your cooking accessories, charge your phone, whatever. And then you've got a lithium battery that is specifically designed to start an engine and be in an engine bay. Jono's been running these on his 24 volt setup in the D-Max. These have been around, they have been tested, and I know that he's run them and they've been pretty good. So they also come with a 3-year warranty. They're 100 amp hours, and I guess the benefits of lithium versus your standard old batteries, lithium are so much better than your standard old batteries. They, like in every way, they outperform them. The cost of them is a lot as an initial investment, but the benefits over time, they're much better. So standard old battery in this size, under the bonnet of a cruiser, they're about 24, 25 kilos. This battery, 12 kilos. So half the weight, that's the first thing. Capacity, well, your standard batteries, they're like 100 amp hours, I think, but you can only sort of use half of that. You know, once they start getting half flat, the volts start dropping off, it starts damaging the battery. With a lithium, you can use it all. You can use 100% of it until it gets to zero and it'll literally just turn off. It'll be 12.8 volts or whatever it is until it gets to zero and then it'll switch off. Now, I'm not recommending that you do that, but there's a lot more usable capacity. The other major thing with lithium batteries is these are 1650 CCA. I believe a normal battery for a 79 is something like that. But if you listen to one of these lithiums, start that 1VD versus a normal old battery, it's a huge difference. Down here, I've got some battery terminals, a couple of boxes, a bunch of P-clamps and stuff like that. I've gone with an Enerdrive charger. Basically, this is gonna get mounted behind the driver's seat on the back wall of the cab, up out of the water and stuff when I flood the ute. This will charge these two batteries off my alternator or my start battery. That's gonna be the brains of this whole system always being topped up. This charger here, I've actually sourced this through Outback Equipment, as well as I've sourced, these are some rocker switches, bunch of heat shrink here, and some cable. Now also for isolating the winch, I'm using an Albright isolator. This one is actually switched from in the car, so it's got a couple of little terminals on it. I'll wire this up to a rocker switch and it'll be bang, on, off, isolate the winch. So you don't have to actually get out and turn a thing. Also, if I have any dramas, I can just hit the switch and hopefully it'll just disconnect. So also, just to minimize the chance of anything shorting out, I've got some braided expandable sleeving, my heat shrink, and I've got some conduit and other stuff over there. A lot of this stuff has come from Outback Equipment. I've also got my Outback Equipment shelf over there, which has got a whole range of Nava wire and plugs and assortments and all kinds of stuff on it. Outback Equipment are a major sponsor of the channel, so I do talk about them quite a bit on here. I do use a lot of their recovery gear and their tough terrain products and things like that. What I also don't really talk about is how many other brands Outback Equipment stocks. So Enerdrive, Red Arc, Runva, Darche, Kincrome. Outback Equipment actually stock all of them. The idea is you can go on there and you can sort of buy everything you need from the one place and pulley 4x4 to get yourself a few bucks off. All right, so I've got the car up on the hoist and I've got the batteries over there on the bench ready to put into the battery tray, which I've already made up. Before I actually go and mount these batteries, I'm just gonna have a little play around with them, make up a couple of leads and just sort of get them set up so it's a lot easier to work on them here on the bench than it is to work on them in the chassis underneath the tray up there. So if I go and test one of these batteries now, should have around sort of 12 to 13 volts in it. There we go, 13.3. And I'll just check this one as well. 13 volts, so we call it a 12 volt system, but fully charged up, that should read a little bit more than that. So now when trying to pull 24 volt out of these things, what you've actually got to do is you've got to link one of the negative posts of one battery to one of the positive posts of the other battery. And the easiest way for me to show you is with this one, is to grab this shifter and sit it there. So they're now linked. And now if I put my multimeter on here and here, 26 volts. So we've linked those two batteries together in a series now, and I'm able to actually pull 24 volt, or 26 volts in this case, it's a little bit more. I'm able to actually pull 24 volts off of there. So what I'll be doing is this negative here will go to the negative of the winch, and this positive here will go to the positive of the winch. There'll be a cable that goes across here that connects these two batteries together. From this positive terminal here, it will actually go straight into this all-bright isolator. So it's only from here to there that you have to worry about that's live all the time. From this post all the way to the winch down the chassis rails and everything like that is only live when you actually switch this isolator on. So if there's any dramas down the line, you can switch it off or it'll be switched off, hopefully.
So when I'm making up the cables, I start by stripping back both layers of insulation and pushing on the terminals. I then use my big terminal crimpers to crimp these ends on. What I'm also doing is flipping them over and putting a second crimp on the other side. Then once that's done, I heat shrink them. This also helps identify which is positive and which is negative due to all the cable being orange. I need to thread my main power cable to work out the length before I can actually cut it and put the ends on. It's important that I pick a safe spot to run it away from any heat, wheels, or even sticks flicking up that could catch it. Then, once I've made the power cable, I can make up some earth leads and start bolting it all together. Now all the cables are run, it's time to wire in the charger.
All right, so I am making a bit of progress with this winch. I've got the cables all run now, so I'll give you a little bit of a look at what I've done. We'll start at the back. So I've got my two lithiums mounted in this custom tray that I've made, which is sort of bolted into the cross member. You'll see I've currently got a ratchet strap around it, and that is because the straps that I actually made for it didn't work. So I've gone and it's got nuts welded into it, so it's all threaded so you can screw it all in. But what I didn't realise is these batteries actually come with this extra lug here, and of course it lines up right where the strap is. So what I'm going to do is, instead of having two single straps, I'm going to design something that sort of looks like a bit of an X that just goes straight on and takes the 4 bolts but goes around the other little post there. But while I was wiring all this up, I didn't want the batteries to move, so that's why they're strapped exactly where they will go. And some of this is to do with the clearance on the exhaust, so it's a bit of a tight gap there. It's the only spot I could put them. They're running pretty close to that air tank. I've still got a bit of room there. It's not touching, and you would be surprised at how hot this exhaust actually gets, which it doesn't actually get that hot. So if I've been on the highway doing 100 for 2 hours straight and I pull up at a bakery to get a sausage roll and I put my hand on the stack, I can put my hand on the stack. I can hold it on there. Not for long, but I can touch it, you know, I can hold my hand on it. So something that's 20 mil away from it is not going to get that hot. And I've had rubber mats on the floor around the stacks and even the paint around the holes where it's cut. It's only probably 10 or 15 mil away from the stack and it hasn't even blistered the paint. So I'm assuming it's going to be fine, but just for a precaution, I've actually gone and heat wrapped the batteries. This is a car builder's product. I actually had this for the firewall of Baz, a reflective heat shield. You stick it on whatever you don't want to get hot and it reflects the heat away. Comes in a roll, mind the mess. You roll it out. I've cut out the pieces that I need and then it's a peel and stick product. I've then got my Albright mounted here. The idea is to have this mounted as close to the battery as you can. It's probably going to be hard to see, but I've got this one cable, this darker one, that is positive power. That's live all the time. I can't turn it off. So that is the most critical cable here. And you can see it comes way out there around, away from all these sharp edges, away from everything, straight into this. And then this is switched off right now. So all the wire from there forward doesn't have any power in it. You see I've used the black expandable tubing around it. Now this stuff is interesting. I've never used it before, but when I was trying to cut it on the bench, I actually thought I'd just be able to cut through it with a Stanley knife. You can't. It's actually really hard wearing stuff. It feels like you should just be able to snip it, no dramas, but it's like a braided hard plastic sort of liner. Even though this orange cable is double sheath, so it's got like 2 layers of insulation, I'm adding another layer just in case to be extra cautious, because the last thing you want is that wire shorting out because it'll probably burn the car down. So it goes into a P-clamp, so it's mounted solid, can't move. And then I've shielded it and run it over the chassis there. It's tight against the chassis once again, so it can't move. One of the biggest things with wiring and wires rubbing through, like I come from a diesel mechanic background working on trucks. A lot of trucks out there are doing 1,000 Ks a day. So just think of how many Ks they're bouncing down rough roads on every week. If you've got a wire that's not zip tied up correctly, it'll just rub straight through and short out, or airlines, everything. Every week, if not every single day at my old job, I was fixing something that had rubbed through or had a drama from that. When it comes to stuff like this, the main thing is P-clamp it up so it can't move, and then it won't be able to rub. It comes up over there, and then there's another P-clamp so it's all solid, and I actually ended up running this braided stuff all the way from there, so all the way to the front, P-clamped along, then it goes straight up to the winch. You'll notice I haven't shielded the earth cable. The earth cable doesn't really matter. If it rubs through, it's not gonna hurt anything. It's actually already earthed to the chassis anyway, so pretty much the focus was on this main power cable. So I run it, P-clamped it all up, and then I've just zip tied the earth wire along it with some really good big zip ties. I think it's come up pretty good. Another thing with this setup, I've added an earth to the chassis. So this is coming straight off the earth post down to the chassis. That's just more of a fail safe, if anything. On the winch here, I've got the power cable. So as you can see, it's wrapped in that braided line. I've actually managed to put a little P-clamp down there to hold it, and then there's another P-clamp just there. So it's P-clamped the whole way, so it cannot move, so it can't rub through on anything. And then yeah, I've got my main earth running up underneath here to the earth post, and there's a second earth here which is going down to a bolt down there which is earthing to chassis. So, and then I'm also going to be adding a earth from the chassis to the cab, so everything's earthed. From factory, these cars only have a couple of smaller grounds. You can't necessarily rely on them, especially when you're adding all this extra stuff and you're bashing the car through mud and whatever else. So the plan was to mount that Enerdrive up on the rear wall here behind the seat, and I've gone and run all the wires. I've mounted a rocker switch here for the Albright isolator, and that one there's for the air free spool. I wouldn't mind later changing this up, making it a bit neater. Obviously they're on their side and they're 2 different switches. So Steady actually make a replacement bit of plastic that goes here that's a lot neater, that I can put my own custom switches in. But I've also got my road vision panel over here that it's actually been in there for a few years, and my winch in, winch out is all wired up to that already. So I've just left that as is. I've got this wire here, goes down to a circuit breaker, which is basically the same as one of these, but it's mounted down underneath. And then it goes from there in through the firewall and under the floor, and then it's coming out here. So that's my main power from the start battery. And then also next to it here, I've got an earth lead, which I've made up. A couple of wires coming from my switches in the dash, run them down under the floor. One of the wires is going down through the grommet underneath to the Albright, and the other one, this is an ignition power source, which is going to go to the charger to tell it when to turn on and off. And this red wire here, this one is going to go to the 24 volt batteries, which are under the tray. So haven't actually made it up yet, haven't put an end on it, hasn't got conduit on it yet, but it's going through the grommet, and then underneath, 2 wires coming out. One's that big power cable and the other one is going for the Albright. I've got them running down here. Another circuit breaker, so this is the circuit breaker for the batteries on this end, and then the one that's going past is going to the Albright. So they then run along here, and this is my Albright. Albright's wired in, and the other power goes into the post on the other side, which will charge the 24 volts. So the winch is all ready to go. It should work now. I'm gonna actually try it in a minute. And the charger is basically all wired up. I've just got to mount it and wire it, but there's a catch. Somehow I've ended up with a 12 volt charger. Now, I'm pretty sure that it's my fault that I've ended up with it, and I actually noticed it earlier on, but I didn't say anything because I thought I might have been able to make it work. But the batteries that I've installed are 12 volt batteries, and I'm just drawing 24 volt from them. And I thought there might be a way that I could just wire each battery to charge separately. But then when I actually started looking at it, I realized because of the link cable, it's obviously gonna short out, and it's not gonna, you can't do that. So, but not the end of the world. I can still use the winch and swap that charger over for a 24 volt one. And as soon as I've got it, I can just pop the seat forward, screw it in, bang the wires on, and she'll be good to go. So, g'day guys. I'm actually in the office right now, not in the shed, editing this video. And I actually didn't get a chance to film testing the winch at the shed. I sort of ended up finishing off in a mad rush and heading away for the weekend to do some wheeling with the boys. But I know everyone watching this video is probably keen to see it in action. So I've actually got a few clips on the computer. I'm gonna put these in from the weekend. And yeah, just show you the winch in action. I've also got some other clips from another weekend since then. And yeah, I'll give you a look.
So this was one of the first sort of tests that I actually snapped my front locker fitting and ended up winching most of this hill. And then on a different weekend, I had dramas with the front locker again, and yeah, used the winch again on this hill. Now, there is actually room to make the winch faster. It's pretty quick now, but Mitch has a different set of gears that he can put in when I'm ready. We started off with this gearing until I get used to it, and I'm pretty happy with how it performs just now. I've used it about 6 times already, and I'm absolutely stoked with it. This content will be coming up soon. I've got a couple of episodes banked up ready to edit, and I can't wait to show you guys. If you have enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like, and if you're keen to see the adventures, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.
This one's got teeth. You probably don't need that.
That's good, because yours doesn't.